crazy when you're in the club, yeah, your song, you're ready to turn it. It's crazy when you're in the club, yeah, your song, you're ready to turn it.
A few years ago, I was a completely different person. My name was Jamel, and I used to be a boy. Now I'm a woman, and I love myself. But back then, well, let's just say I was very confused and didn't quite know what I wanted to do with my life. Let me start at the very beginning.
So, let's watch this together, and let's see what happens. And I know my gaming video, I messed up on the ice cream one. Sorry about that.
This video is sponsored by NordVPN. More details at the end.
Just try not to get scared.
Looking for a new roommate is always a daunting task. Even though you interview and take the time to get to know that person, you don't truly find out who they are until you start living with them. I had begun searching for a roommate after I decided to leave my current residency. I was contacted a couple of hours after placing an ad on the Facebook Marketplace. The message read,
Hey Chris, I'll be moving out of my current apartment this August, and I'm looking to room with someone new, as my roommates are moving to California this year. I'm 27 and I'm currently going to school. When I'm not at school, I enjoy hiking and watching movies. I also apprentice at a taxidermy shop on the days I don't have class. Hope that's not weird. It's always been a fun hobby of mine. Anyway, I'm looking forward to hearing back from you. Have a great day, Lunaire.
My first and most obvious reaction after reading the message was to check her profile. She was of medium height, had long, messy blonde hair and green eyes. In her profile picture, I saw her standing with a man and a woman shoulder to shoulder. They each adorned goofy grins and held up peace signs. Under the photo, the caption read, "Love my roommates." I smiled to myself and decided to send her a message back. The sun beat down on us as we hoisted various objects to the second floor of our new apartment. It took us a couple days to get everything out of the moving trucks and into our new place, but as soon as we did, a wave of relief washed over our sweat-drenched and sore bodies. After a couple more hours of rearranging, we each...
Comment down below, do you like my lighting so far? It looks cool, but anyway, sorry for stalling. Let's get right into it. Scary animation.
Grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat on the porch. We reminisced about old 90s cartoons and what video games we obsessed over as kids. And as the sun started to set, I truly felt relaxed and confident that things were going to work out. A week later, I started a new job for a construction company that was owned by a good friend of mine. As I was getting ready, I heard the front door swing open. I walked into the living room to see Lunaire and her friend David sliding in a large box. "What you got there?" I asked. Through a strained grunt, she replied,
I bought a freezer to store some of the animals I'm planning on using in my taxidermy work. I hope that's alright.
I was obviously hesitant at first, as there was no mention of this happening in the first place, but I eventually accepted and returned to my room to continue getting ready for work. I came home at around 9 p.m. after having a couple of beers with friends and noticed that the freezer was nestled snugly in the lower part of the pantry. A low hum could be heard reverberating off of the inner walls. I was curious to see what was inside, but didn't want to intrude on Lunaire's business, so I went into my room and changed into more comfortable clothing. After changing, I came back out into the kitchen and started making a sandwich. I opened the fridge and grabbed what I needed. As I turned around, I stubbed my toe on the edge of the island countertop and let out a long, exasperated grunt. Through my frustration, I slammed the fridge door shut and checked my toe to see if there was any bleeding. As I raised my head back up, I was greeted by a shadowy figure. Lunaire was standing in the doorway leading to her room. The darkness behind her almost seemed to envelop her.
Is everything okay?
She said in a deadpan tone. "Shit, yeah, I'm sorry. I just slammed my toe into the corner of the countertop as I was making a sandwich. I hope I didn't wake you."
It's fine.
she said, in the same deflated tone as before. She then turned around and walked back into the darkness of her room. I could tell that she was pissed, so I quietly made my sandwich and retreated back to my room as well, only hearing the low hum from the freezer as I closed my door. I had the next day off, so I was able to sleep in a little longer than usual. When I finally emerged from my room, I walked into the kitchen to make breakfast. As I opened the refrigerator, I noticed that the light wasn't turning on and there was a lack of cold air escaping from inside. I turned around and flipped the light switch to confirm my suspicion. Sure enough, the power was out. Damn it, I muttered under my breath. I walked over to Lunaire's room and knocked on her door to tell her about the power outage if she didn't already know, but there was no answer. I then remembered that she had classes that day and probably wasn't home. I walked back to the kitchen and past the pantry. As I did, I slipped on the floor but was able to catch myself on the countertop. What the? I angrily exclaimed as I looked down at the floor trying to figure out what I had slipped on. It was blood, and it started to leak from the corner of the freezer and pool onto the floor. I quickly tried to open the freezer to find out the cause of the viscous liquid, but then I noticed that it had a padlock attached to it. I don't remember seeing that before.
That's good. Always feel relaxed when you're around somebody. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Okay. A large box.
I ran out to my car and grabbed my toolbox from the back seat. I approached the freezer and set my tools down on the nearby countertop. I then pulled out a small pair of bolt cutters and snapped through the metal of the padlock. It fell to the ground with a large thud. I creaked open the top of the freezer and was greeted with a putrid stench that permeated my nostrils. I quickly pinched my nose and walked away gagging in response. I guess I should have realized that was gonna happen, I muttered to myself in between gags. After gaining my composure, I grabbed some gloves from under the sink and started taking inventory. I could see a couple of dead birds and plastic bags wedged into the corners of the freezer. I took each bag out and set them in the trash can nearby. That's when I noticed that the blood was coming from the corner of the larger black bag. I don't know why, but I decided to open the top of the bag and peer inside. I was greeted by large, milky white eyes, a swollen black tongue surrounded by cracked and bloated lips, and the matted hair of a human head.
I don't trust her, guys. Comment down below you trust her. She sounds suspicious. Pretty suspicious. I have no idea. Guys, don't know. Try to trust her. Try to trust her, guys. Please comment down below. Should I trust her? I don't know.
I swiftly dropped the bag and fell backwards onto the floor. My breathing had ceased to exist, and I grabbed the trash can next to me and expelled my disgust into it. I then ran out the door, got into my car, and called the police. As I sat in the interrogation room with a blanket over my shoulders, I couldn't help but think about the face I'd seen. It looked so familiar. That's when it finally hit me. I pulled out my phone and looked at Lunaire's profile picture. It was her old roommate, the one she said was moving to California.
Wait, what's that lock? What's that lock? What's that freezer lock, guys? You saw that? I've been really trying, babe.
When the detective entered the room, she started the questioning process, asking me if I started noticing any weird behavioral occurrences around the apartment. Yeah, I stubbed my toe the other day and she creepily stood in the doorway. It seemed like she was pissed, but for some reason I had a strange feeling like she was concerned about something.
If I was him, I'd call the police.
That's when I connected the dots. She didn't
That's how
come
I do.
out to the
Call
kitchen
police
because she heard me stub
officer.
my toe.
Yes, you would-
She came out into the
Okay.
kitchen because she thought I
you
slammed the
tell,
freezer
could
instead
be
of
a
the
human
fridge.
being
A
inside
cold
the
sweat
freezer.
started to form on my forehead as my surroundings
sure
became blurred.
He's in
I could
danger,
hear a
guys.
low
He's definitely
whine
in
slowly
danger.
starting to
He
cover
needs
up
to
the
get out there.
words
He
of
needs to call the
concern
police.
from the
That time,
detective.
always call police, guys.
As my vision started to clear,
Always call police.
I could see another officer
happened?
enter the room and whisper something into her ear as he handed her a piece of paper.
Oh.
"Do you have somewhere you could stay at?" she asked. "I mean, I was planning on staying with my parents. They
Okay.
live about 30 minutes outside of town." "Okay," she paused.
Oh.
"Listen, I don't want to worry you, but we found this picture inside of your apartment." She slid the piece of paper across the table, and I immediately felt like someone kicked me in the chest. The head of Lunaire's other roommate sat on the chair. In the background, scrawled on the wall in blood, read,
What?
"Love my roommates. All of them."
Oh. So it's not a human being. Yes, throw him away. No, that's not be human. That has to be human. That's a human. That has to be a human, guys. No! Oh my god. Hold on. I knew it. There has to be a human in there, guys. That's the reason why people lock up. That's why she locked up her refrigerator. I mean her freezer. Because it's a human being. Oh my god. Okay, that time, call the police. That's all I would do, guys. Either call the police or whack that girl. Slap
On the
some
video
sense
and
into
then-
that girl. And that time, I will be running
Then
for
you
my life
need
or
NordVPN.
call 911.
If you haven't heard of NordVPN,
This
you must be pretty new on
Scary,
YouTube,
but let's
and
find
that's
out.
okay. Using
Oh no. Oh no, that can't be good. Yes, call the police. Always call the police when that you see that happening, guys. What? Oh. Oh. She's definitely not moving to California no more because she's dead. Rip roommate. You definitely did. Okay, concerned about something. Guys, I'm sweating right now. I am sweating.
What's all this racket?
A monster!
What is it?
A monster.
Over there! In the closet!
Enough! If I hear another sound from you tonight, there'll be trouble.
But the monster!
There's no such thing as
my
monsters.
God. Wait a minute. Stop. Pause. Love
If I
my
hear another
roommate
sound from you tonight,
or
there'll be
all
trouble.
Of them.
But the monster!
There's no such thing.
Okay. Okay. You see the left corner? That's a head. Surprise head. Guys, okay. Roommates? Sometimes you can't trust roommates, guys.
Thing as
But
monsters.
you know what? Sometimes, guys, I know some of you guys are scared right now, but I don't want afraid about having no roommates. Sometimes it's good to have roommates, sometimes it's not good. But let's continue watching this. To the second one.
Come on, Gregory.
Guys,
It's time for bed.
Was that one scary?
Oh, do I have to?
Yes, it's way
Let
past
me
your
know.
bedtime.
But there's a monster in there.
Okay.
That must be your father.
What's all this mess?
What mess? I've done exactly what you told me to do. Everything is tidy, just the way you like it.
Tidy? You call that tidy? Perhaps I should make myself more clear.
Please, you're just a little drunk. You don't know what
Little drunk, am I? Why are you not in bed? Go to your room. Now!
As the title, guys, you know what? I'm gonna watch 4. So that's 1 down. 3 more to go.
Gregory,
3 more animation to scroll down 1.
let me out, Gregory.
Behind closed doors. Okay. Okay, that's creepy. What's behind the door? What's behind the door?
And more about this. This. And this.
Oh.
Yes.
Whoa.
I said, get up.
No!
You,
Wait a minute.
come here.
Go back. Wait.
Just
for it, wait
like
for it.
your mother. Can't obey a single. Hey, get back
Does he
here.
look like a monster, guys? Comment down below.
Don't walk away from me, boy.
Wait a minute. You don't say more.
Gregory,
Could be him.
you can't hide from me.
Find out there's a monster in his room, guys. Gotta find out. Behind closed doors. Creepy. Okay.
There you
Go
are.
by. Okay. What? What?
Ah!
Oh my god. Is it gone? Yeah, that has to be a glitch. Okay. Phew.
You're a
Oh my god.
monster.
But there's no such thing as monsters.
It's not that's a mob. No wonder why you're scared. You saw somebody in your room that is probably not. It's probably. You're right. It's a monster. Oh no. He's drunk. Listen, kid, listen. Okay, I
Now at Michael's, get 50% off all Easter decor and baskets. Buy one, get one.
Before starting the story, I would like to tell you guys about a channel. The name of the channel is IMR Scary Tales. This channel previously used to make scary
What? Oh no. Jump scare?
Scary animation videos in the Hindi
There's nothing in there. There's nothing in there.
language from India.
There's a plane,
Now they are
but
publishing
it's
them in
empty,
English
nothing.
on their new channel,
Yeah,
IMR Scary Tales.
There's something in there. Whoa!
I'm a 16-year-old
Okay.
girl,
That
and this
time,
took
I'll call
place in
911.
July of
Oh, that time you asked for
2019.
911.
Me, my parents, and two
Okay,
sisters
yes.
were having a family gathering at this lake where we all used to go. We hadn't been to this lake in a few years, so I was excited to be going
looks like the
back.
parents is getting to argument.
Just to give you a general idea of the place,
Now,
when you
okay,
first
guys.
pull into the
Rule
path
number one,
to head up to the
don't
lake,
drink.
you have to
That's-
drive for a few minutes, a very narrow path
Oh,
surrounded by
Wait a
woods.
minute. Wait a minute.
And you
He's
come to a fork
dead.
in the path. One leads to a
Okay,
picnic area
run.
and the other leads
Call
to the
the
lake.
police right now.
Then you continue up the path to the lake, and after a few more
No,
minutes, come
run,
across another
run,
fork.
Run. Oh yeah, be mad.
One side leads to
Run
one
away,
entrance
run
to the
away.
lake, and the other side leads to another entrance that's across the lake.
Run.
After that, you still
Lock
have
the
to drive
door.
for a few more minutes until you get to the parking area, so it's pretty tedious.
Yeah, hi.
We'd already been to the lake for a few
Where is it?
hours, and suddenly I got a headache. My mom gave me the car keys so I could go sit in the car with the air conditioning on.
Oh no.
I took the keys
knew it.
and
There had to be
started
something
to
wrong
walk
with
back
Dad.
to
I
the
knew it.
car.
He is a monster.
The parking lot and the lake area were a little way off apart from each other. As I was approaching our car, I saw a man who was looking through the car windows. He was a skinny, old white man with shoulder-length gray
rip
hair, and he
your
wore
dad.
old
That got
clothes. I stopped walking and asked him, "Sir, what are you doing?" He slowly turned to me, stared at me for a moment, and then walked away.
Okay.
I thought it was weird, but I just ignored him that he might be just
Okay.
another visitor in this area.
Wait.
And I was totally wrong. I got into the driver's
Let's go,
seat
guys.
and locked the car. I
So,
turned the
what's
car
it,
on
three?
and tried to call
Got
my mom to
2
tell
more
her
to
about
go,
the
guys.
man,
Got 2 more
ask
to go.
if she
Over
could send someone to
there.
come
Let me
sit with
put my
me.
light
But
here.
there wasn't any cell service out at this lake, so the call never went through. I then looked to the right and saw the old man looking at me through the passenger's side window.
Alright.
He was trying to open the
We got 2
door.
more to go.
I screamed and
Alright,
desperately
walk
tried
the
calling my
shore.
dad and then my aunt, hoping the call would somehow go through. But of course, it didn't. I was freaking out at this point, and I honked the horn at the man, hoping that someone would hear and come see. I was blaring the horn, but there was no one else in the parking area. I was too far away from the lake area, so my family couldn't hear me at all. The man stopped, stared at me, and gave up trying to open the door. And then he stepped back from the car while saying something, but I couldn't hear him. As he disappeared, I got out of the car, locked it, and rushed back to the lake area. When I got there, I slammed the keys on the table and my mom asked me what was wrong.
Horror story.
I told her, and as I was talking, I could see that she got angry. She looked at my dad and uncles and told them they needed to come with us back to the car.
Okay.
I started crying and shaking as we were walking back towards the cars.
Okay.
2 of my uncles ran into the woods, and my father drove down to the path. As I was crying, I just stood there. My 2 aunts and grandmother
Few
hugged me and
minutes.
told
That's
me
not
that
taking a while.
everything is okay. Mom looked
Fine
in the
by one.
windows of the other cars in the area to see if the man got inside one of the cars, but
Yep.
all the cars were empty. A few minutes later, everyone was back, but they couldn't
Wait, hold
find
on,
that
pause
old
a second.
man.
It's just me or
Soon we left the
every
lake,
scary
and
thing
as we were
always happen in the
leaving, we
woods?
saw a park ranger.
Weird.
We told him everything, and he looked confused. He said that no one didn't go out from this area before us, which meant that man came from the woods in this lake. When I heard of it,
Okay.
I was terrified, but now I am glad that I'm okay. But I still think about what could have happened to me if the man managed to get inside the car.
Okay.
Making animation videos takes lots of time and funds. So thanks to the sponsors who support the channel, Beat Mobile game that you get them. iCare has a unique once you're college to obtain rebates avail legends of
Hi, I live in a city of Philippines.
That's creepy.
Hi, I live in a city of Philippines. This incident happened to me a while ago, but it reminded me forever and ever. That day, I was staying outside for some schedule, and it was kind of late, so I thought that I have no choice but to take a jeepney, which is a public vehicle in the Philippines, to ride back home. The street was pretty quiet, as I saw one jeepney was going to pass through, so I waved my hand. And when I just entered a jeepney, my eye directly reached a woman besides the driver's seat. The woman looked asleep beside the driver, and for her head is resting at his shoulders. So I thought that woman was a girlfriend of the driver. I sat to behind side, and in my front view of my seat, there was an old man, so there were only 4 passengers during that time. The inside of jeepney was quiet. Nobody was talking, and I didn't any pay attention to others. And that was the most worst things happened when the jeepney have traveled for a few meters more. Then the old man who was in front of me suddenly asked the driver to stop the vehicle and dragged me outside. At the first time, I didn't recognize what was going on. Then I was just scared of his sudden behavior, so I shouted, "Stop it!" He had no replies for a few seconds. Then he replied, "Shh, trust me." Still confused, but I quickly followed what he said because I'm very nervous that time and don't know what should I do. My mind was almost blew up. I kept thinking, what if he was going to steal something kill me? What should I do? When we already have left the jeepney, he stared me and finally told me with calm voice that the girl who was beside the driver's seat was already dead. I could not believe what was he saying. Then he said again, I saw with my own eyes. Her lips and nails were already black, and her waist had an ice pick stabbed on it and full of blood. I was shocked. If I didn't follow that old man so I didn't get off, what would be the next? The old man left behind me and said again, "You should be careful next time." After that day, when I get on jeepney, I always pay attention abnormally.
Scarier. And thank you for watching. See you guys in the next video. Stay cool, all of you. And always remember, wash your hands, take a shower, keep clean, stay healthy, stay fit, stay strong. And you do not want to miss April 14th when my movie, The Best Fighter, comes out.